right, so tell us, Brett, a little bit about your film, of course.
Sure. My film is called The Hottest August, and it's a film about how people are living and coping with climate change, in particular the anxieties of a diminishing future. It's shot entirely over the course of 1 month in the city of New York.
Why did you pick the city of New York to do this?
New York is like a microcosm of the world right now. It has the richest people in the world, the poorest people of the world. It's surrounded by water, and it's going to be overtaken by water. And New Yorkers are just a kind of lively bunch that are game to have conversations with strangers. So it was a place where a lot is going on that is indicative of the state of the planet right now.
What kind of subjects did you have in your film, and then how did you select them, or how did you pitch them to be part of this film, of course?
So the idea with this film is that it's a tapestry film. We actually spend every day over the course of 1 month just roaming the streets, talking to strangers and filming things that are happening. And it ended up being a really interesting month. The solar eclipse was in the middle of it. Charlottesville and the marching of neo-Nazis happened 2/3 of the way through. Hurricane Harvey hit Texas by the end of the month. So we actually just would approach strangers. Sometimes, the film begins with two men with no shirts on leaning out of a window on a third floor of a house and chatting with us about immigration and about unions. So the conversations happen very spontaneously.
How did you become interested in environmental issues and climate change and such? I know it's such a big issue, and I know it's a big issue to tackle upon, but I kind of find it fascinating that you correlated anxiety with climate change. So how did you come up with that angle for your film?
I mean, I think I was just thinking a lot about how myself, and especially generations younger than myself, the question is not so much, does climate change exist? Do we need to give them more information about environmental destruction? But rather I see people just really having internalized the anxiety. They're paralyzed with anxiety about the feeling like the future, if it exists at all, it will be bad. And so I became really interested in a different kind of climate change film that would explore less the sort of, state of the glaciers and more like the state of people coping with that reality right now, and trying to produce something that will be a document for us, but also a document for future generations who are going to want to know what were we all doing at this moment in which the world is collapsing.
Were there any big influences in your film in terms of helping you out doing this film, of course, and getting it all together?
In terms of
just in terms of help, not necessarily financially, but just help and steering you in the right direction.
Well, I had, this film is inspired by a Chris Marker film, the famous French essay filmmaker from the 60s who made a film about Paris at the close of the Algerian War called Le Joli Mai. So that really inspired my thinking. And then I incubated this project while a fellow with the Sundance Art of Nonfiction Fellowship, and that was a year-long fellowship. Myself and four other artists got to sort of develop and think about how to approach our films. And really, I make films that are outside of the box a little bit, more artful, creative, and so, that really helped the process in terms of putting this film together.
If Rachel Carson was alive today, what would she say about your film?
I think she would agree that what we don't need necessarily is more evidence. The evidence is already there. Yeah. She gave us evidence 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And so the question, the film tries to turn the question on its head and ask what's going on with us that we can't seem to do anything about it, rather than what's going on with the planet. And I think that I hope anyways, that she would agree that we need to be introspective at this moment about what is keeping us from feeling our power to change the state of the planet when our very survival is at stake.
How does it feel to be here at Hot Docs? And of course, what do you want your audience to take away from this film when they watch it here at Hot Docs Festival?
This is a really thought-provoking film. So this is a film that I love to show for audiences, large audiences, people who are sharing space. The great thing about Hot Docs is that people come out. People are going to be in theaters that are packed. They're going to be going out for dinner afterwards, and I hope they're going to be ready to have conversations about what they just saw. And in particular, this is a film that invites people to make some connections, to say, a climate change film shouldn't be separated from thinking about Islamophobia and the rise of white supremacy and rising inequality. How do we think about these things as interrelated? And how might that actually help us rethink about how to come together as people? I mean, it's also a film very much about feeling isolated and alone and the problems of individualism. And so the opportunity to show it in collective space where people can feel and understand that we're in something together and that any transformation will depend on us feeling like we're in something together is really important.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Brett, and good luck with your film here.
Thank you so much.